Hello and welcome to my channel. Happy New Year 2024. This is my first journal share for the year and I am excited to share this with you. I've named this one Garnet Wine Tea Time because of the color of the beautiful silk cover. I'm just in love with it, and this beautiful piece of antique lace as well. Isn't that just so lovely? Beautiful tufted Dupioni silk. And I hope the recipient is going to be happy with this choice. It will be a surprise, I'm sure. I've got some little danglies on the ends of the signature strings. And this lace piece that I have attached to the front of the cover is permanent. I've got it anchored with a beautiful stick pin created by Sheila Gingrich of Boho Daydreams. And then I've just got this booklet in the front, which can be used as a separate little pocket journal. Beautiful applique and some sweet beads and pearls on the bottoms. A lovely image there of a lady having tea. And then some gorgeous coffee dyed and gold, metallic gold spritzed papers inside. Little extra journaling pieces and just some small embellishments. This is a tuck spot, and I have attached an envelope to it. This is avocado dyed paper. Isn't that beautiful, the envelope? And then just a few die cuts that I've added throughout. That goes tucked into the front cover. This is a continuation of my tea journals that I've been making, Tea and Roses. And I do have a few orders left to fulfill. I'm going through my wait list. And once again, I want to just say thank you so much to each person for giving me the creative time to do what I need to do and make it a beautiful personalized journal. I've got some silk ties, these beautiful silk ties, damask or jersey or jacquard. I don't even know which one it is. I should have paid attention when I was purchasing it. I have mixed the digitals in here. They're from a couple of kits, and I can include them in the description below the journal. Just making sure I am centered here. I've also tucked in a couple of teas. I couldn't find any that were Garnet wine, but I know there is a manufacturer's name called Garnet who does wine, obviously. But a Garnet wine tea, there is such a thing. I just wasn't able to get it in time to include with this journal. So I've just chosen a few beautiful organic, what do you call them? Organic teas, but they are non-caffeinated, and I hope she will enjoy them. A little bag of some vintage ephemera pieces. It's actually a vellum envelope that I have tied. And I love this little poem inside, this beautiful, beautiful antique piece of ephemera. Sweet is thy voice to me, as is the wandering breeze, which whispers summer melody among the leafy trees. Isn't that adorable? With Valentine's coming, I thought it would be very appropriate. So those get tucked into the side front here. I've used some vintage wallpaper that was gifted to me by my sweet friend. And I've used it for several journals. It's just perfect. I really, really love it. Some vintage lace in the front and the back makes for some sweet little tuck spots. Beautiful vintage lace that crocheted lace that I've added to the side. It's crocheted onto a piece of rickrack, and I just love it. It's just so sweet. I will say that when I was printing and preparing these pages several months ago, I didn't have a use of my kitchen because we've been renovating our home or remodeling it, and I had no kitchen for several months. So I was not able to tea dye in my usual way. So what I did was some of the pages I printed out on parchment paper, and I love the look. They're great. They're a little bit more matte than I'm used to, but I do love the effect, and I think it blends very well with the pages that are actually tea dyed. So if you don't like tea dyeing, just use parchment paper. It works great. Some die cuts that I have done, actually they're not die cuts, it's stamping, and I have fussy cut these stacking teacups. They are tattered teacups. I just love them. I think they're so sweet. Those are by Heartfelt Creations. I've had them for years. And this is a tag with a nod to our Vermont retreat from Fair Damsels. This was a class taught by Sheila on sweet pea tags. And we used a base, an index card base that we painted and gessoed on both sides, and then added some vintage wallpaper, paper napkin, vintage and antique ledger, some embossed papers, and then stamped it. I used gold embossing powder, and then also the gold leafing for a beautiful effect. So that looked perfect in this little pocket of the stacking teacups. This is some tags on this side with some beautiful blush colored vintage lace. I thought it blended nicely with the image of the tuck spot that I made. I also used some French script text, just doing some random stamping on the pages just to give it some interest for the backgrounds. This is another little teacup die cut, a vintage notebook that I got with recipes, and I included the one for corn muffins in this journal, and another tag that I've created using some decoupage paper napkin, some of Sheila's beautiful velvet that I ruffled up, just ruched up with my fingers, and vintage lace just cascading down the bottom there. So those go on this side. Some poetry from Elizabeth Barrett Browning, vintage sheet music, and a gold silhouette die cut of a butterfly. Some line journaling paper, and then I've got this beautiful velvet. This did not come from Sheila, as I've shared before. This one I got from Anthropology or Terrain. They had some beautiful colors this year, and I've got quite a bit left over. It's quite thin and flat. And then what I did on the reverse side was just use some vintage rosebuds trim that I had, and I thought it blended very nicely. This tag is rather large. I've got the words Tea Soirée on it, used some vintage sheet music, some die cuts that I have, stamping and die cuts on the back of a lined index card. And then this side of the page, I love. What I've got is another nod to Vermont. This particular tag is made out of vintage laces and backed onto some antique music, sheet music. This was a class that Georgianne taught. And then you just did layers and layers of the lace and appliques and such. And then I just stitched around it and used it and decided to include it in this journal. I've got some antique ledger paper from the year 1910. Beautiful, beautiful ledger paper. Another large tag that I made using some teacup die cuts and a gold butterfly stamped on the back with a little tea sachet. Some more lace on the side and just some extra journaling cards. A little library card and some Tim Holtz paper. And of course the script stamping. On this side we've got some Bible book page, some Shakespeare, and another lovely silhouette butterfly die cut out of gold metallic paper. Some vellum paper, and then another beautiful digital image. This lace is my favorite, I think, in this journal. It is antique French lace, and I know that because I bought a whole bunch from a lady that was a former, well, a retired home ec teacher. We used to call it home ec. I don't know what they call it now. Domestics or sewing or whatever, life skills. This lady is in her 90s, and she was very reluctant to part with her precious laces, and I told the lady that I bought them from to make sure you let her know that I bought as many as I could and they will be treasured and appreciated. Just so nice when you know the story behind some of these things. A couple of tags here. This one says, "A cup of tea warms the soul like a good friend," and one of the digital images for it. Small writing space. If you don't use this for writing your memories and such in, you can always use it as a Bible journal and just put verses on the back. You can use these journals as photo storage, you know, like an album or a mini album. They're just so much fun to use. Or just keep it as a lookbook or a coffee table book. This small tag, I used the back of an index card and did some embossing out of parchment paper. That's cardstock weight parchment paper, and then some French grammar book page and a stamped image of a teapot. Some of my beautiful anagriffin papers, and just backed onto a large tag stamped with the words "afternoon tea." That stamp is from Lorna Taylor, Tailor Made Journals. Beautiful vellum sticker that I have on this side of a shorter flat page, and some lace on the tied to the end of the paper clip. I've done a fabric ruffle on the side of the flap, and then just a small booklet with a teapot, a teacup, and it says "Tea and Roses" that I've printed out. I make my own sentiments up and then just print them out and cut them to size for a lot of my journals that I create. Line journaling page on this side, and here I have added a pocket that I've decorated with some beautiful vintage lace that has the metallic gold threads in it, a gold butterfly paper clip, and then just a couple of tags. This one is a fabric swatch that I've used some of Sheila's beautiful embellished trims, a piece of vintage lace, and then just some scrapbook paper. Gorgeous dotted netting or tulle on the top, and it's very, very soft, easy to tie. And I have added some teacups and a teapot, the words "tea for two," just for some extra journaling space. Some of my avocado dyed paper also has a beautiful piece of antique lace here. I just absolutely love it. It's crocheted, but it's very, very fine, very, very soft threads. And then just a couple of journaling cards. This one says, "Where there is tea, there is love," and some fiber toppers. A magazine page. Actually not a magazine, it was a book. It's a book on afternoon tea, and the images are just so gorgeous. If you turn it to the side, you can see the teacups there. And then some recipes on the back side. This is the center page of the journal. I've included a little teacup and spoon die cut. And this is the image here for the center of the journal. And then here are the beads and charms that I have added. Tried to make it look as vintage as possible. Some of these beads are from a vintage bracelet, of course, that I have deconstructed and repurposed. And then these sweet little charms of the teacup, the spoon, and the macaroons, and a teapot. And another little teacup die cut, a lovely recipe. And then on this side, I have added a tag that I have made using some decoupage paper napkin and some of Sheila's velvet trim, and then some vintage lace, a piece of a rose applique that I got from Susie, and then this is some pink seam binding and some fibers that I've added to the side of the paper clip just to anchor it to the page. Another piece of beautiful vintage lace with some satin ribbon running through it. I let it fall just to the edge of the page so it doesn't get caught up when you're trying to turn the page. Most of the laces I just adhere with a dot here and there of Fabri-Tac glue, and then I sew them on. I don't always sew them on. Sometimes I sew them to paper, as I did with these ruffles. You can see the backside of the paper there, but they're to me they look like they're just naturally falling in place, and I really like that look. Piece of beautiful vintage lace that I have made into a pocket on the back of this tea-dyed paper. And then I've got a silk tea bag that I've just added a die cut on my business card to, and another die cut. A small journaling card, again with the embossed pink parchment paper, a stamped image of a beautiful teacup, and some extra journaling space. I'm coming down with a cold, so I'm hoping I can get through this without having to stop and cough. Here is some beautiful vintage fabric that I've made into a ruffle, and a journaling card made from Edith Holden book page, and some stacking teacups. That's a die cut, and this one's really intricate, so I cut it out of several different colors of paper and then just puzzle pieced them together to make an interesting image. Dragonfly fussy cut there, and here I've got a pocket made out of vellum and a tall skinny tag with some beautiful fibers on it, an image from one of the digital kits, some paper edged punching at the bottom, and then I've got a small heart tag that I had done some stamping on and added some very delicate fibers tucked into here. I felt that this lace on the right hand side complemented the lace used in the digital image. Another journaling card that I have added the die cut teacups, or these are actually teapots, to the Edith Holden book page. I avocado dyed the planner paper and run some seam binding through it with some beautiful vintage pearl buttons on the top of the ribbon. And then I try to make sure I attach these to pages so that they dangle off the top and don't get pressed into the pages where they would leave a mark. The other side of the vellum, it's the Shakespeare, beautiful gold metallic butterfly die cut. And then here I have done a lace and applique swatch onto this card, and I've stamped the back of some tea-dyed paper and then just added it as a tall tag. You can transfer this, use it anywhere you'd like, and it's topped with some lovely chiffon ribbon. I also love this lace, beautiful lace. One of my favorites to use. It's so nice and floppy. And then I've got an envelope that I created on this side. Used a beautiful piece of vintage to antique linen. It is a hanky, and this particular one had 4 sides, so I'm able to get the flaps for 4 envelopes out of this one hanky. And then I just added some velvet and a few pieces of ephemera that she can add into the journal if she chooses to do so. And then I've just included a small tag that says Herbal Brewing. And then I love this piece of vintage jewelry. This was part of a necklace that I deconstructed and added to as a dangle to the paper clip on the side of the page. And then I have this other side of this beautiful ledger paper. I've done a tag with this paper and some stamping, beautiful delicate vintage lace, and some vintage rosebud trim. And that just gets tucked into this ledger paper. A tag that I've just done some stamping of teapots and a teacup. This is antique paper doily here. It's extremely fragile, and I love this image with the little dragonfly. The little library card or whatever you would like can just be tucked in there as well. And then here we've got a tiny envelope that I've used a die cut that I've stamped and used the ultra thick embossing powder and added the words Tea Party to the back. And then I've just got some extra little die cuts of a teapot and a cup inside the envelope. And another library card for some extra journaling space. And these sweet little paper clips with the hearts on them. I just think they're so adorable. I know they come in all kinds of colors, but I really love the gold. Another tag on this side of the page. Tall, skinny tag, and I've added a tiny tag with a little teacup that I have. One of these punches that's ancient. And a piece of crinkled seam binding, a bulb pin, some stamping, and then on this paper clip I have added a large pearl charm. Some gorgeous antique applique. I was going to say most of the laces, or a lot of them in this particular journal, I got from Lavish Laces. I found out about her on Instagram, and she has a shop on Etsy. She sells some beautiful Dupioni silks. Her items are just lovely. If you want to check her out, it's Lavish Laces. And then what I did was add a piece of the lace, the eyelet cotton, and threaded some seam binding through there just for interest, and stamped a beautiful teapot on the front of the card. Book page. This pocket is secured with a small embellished paper clip, and then a few tags in the pocket. This one says Botanical Tea, topped with some fibers, some I just want to say Laura Ashley, Anna Griffin paper, and just a large tall tag for extra writing. This is a die cut that I have. I make it the paper edge into a pocket, and some lovely vintage lace as well. And we're getting to the back of the journal. We're almost finished. This page has, oh, you know what? I had a vintage postcard. It must be in one of the envelopes, because I do always like to include one in every journal that I make. This tiny little tea bag has this little holder in there. How sweet is that? Another library card, and then a vintage envelope that she can use to add whatever she would like to inside. And then I've got one more item in this journal in the back side of the inside cover. It's just a small booklet that I have put together with some of the avocado dyed paper that I've done, and a small tuck spot. So there's lots of extra room for journaling. Yes, I think the postcard might be in here. I can't remember where I put it. But anyhow, there's lots of fun things for her to discover. I hope she enjoys it, and I hope that you've enjoyed looking at the walkthrough with me. This is also a piece of vintage jewelry that is sterling silver that was gifted to me, and I just think it's so beautiful. I'm hoping the recipient is going to enjoy knowing where it came from. So that is Garnet Wine Tea Time, and she's probably arrived in the hands of her new owner, so I'm able to share the video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned. There's lots more to come. Bye for now.